Hi, everyone. I am Allison Weisbrot. I'm ADWEEK's executive editor, and I'm super excited to be here with all of you for this group chat from Click to Cart, Unlocking Full Funnel Omnichannel Strategies. We're here with Smart Commerce to have this discussion. And we're going to talk about something that most of us in this room, I think, probably feel every day in their roles, which is that shoppers don't move through a neat funnel anymore, right? They discover, consider, and buy in minutes on all different devices, and that journey is not necessarily a linear one. So we're going to talk about how brands meet people in the moment at the right place, spark interest, and make it super simple to act. So before we do that, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of an icebreaker. Everyone, please tell the audience your name, where you work, and which fictional character you would trust to do your holiday shopping. All right, so I'm going to kick it off with you, Tisha.
Okay, I am Tisha Thompson. I'm the founder and CEO of LYS Beauty. I would say I'm going to go with, in honor of the 20th anniversary of my favorite movie, Devil Wears Prada, next year, I would say Miranda Priestley, because I feel like she's going to have all of the most epic gifts that everyone would love to Instagram, and they would set the trend. So,
amazing answer. Benoit.
Hi. On my end, I'm going to keep it on brand. That will be Murder Man. If you don't know Murder Man, you need to meet Murder Man. And why Murder Man? Who's our mascot, by the way, for people that don't know. He's Liquid Death's mascot. And Murder Man will be doing great shopping because first he will come up with crazy shit, so that will be good. And second, he will drop a can of Liquid Death along with it.
and tell everyone what you do.
Oh, sorry. I'm Chief Media Officer at Liquid Death.
At Liquid Death, of course. Okay. Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer Silverberg. I'm founder of Smart Commerce. And I would pick Santa.
That's a good one. I was going to say his elves, just go to the source. Nicole.
Yeah, hi, Nicole Vinson. I lead global marketing excellence for Kellanova, formerly the Kellogg Company, or the snack spinoff. And I would go with Olivia Pope from Scandal because she is constantly in crisis, but she's very decisive. So I think she would be speedy and to the point.
Another good one. All right, Beth.
I love that one. I'm same mindset here. I'm Beth Tripaldi. I'm head of strategy at Argonaut. It's an independent creative shop. I chose Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, and hear me out, because you're probably thinking my holidays are chaotic, and they absolutely are. But I think Lilo comes in with childhood wonder, and really has this sort of imagination and resourcefulness when thinking about gifting here. But also, it's all about bringing families together, and I do think that, in anticipation of the holidays and thinking about the gifts, and it's all about kind of like sharing that mentality of, what makes meaningful connection points at that same point in time. So,
Awesome.
Lilo.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And Candace.
Hi, I'm Candace Payne. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for brand and seasonal campaigns at Sephora. And I think I would pick, going on the Disney vibes here, I'm going to go with Joy from Inside Out, because I feel like her gifts would spark joy, and that's really what you want for the holidays. Like, she's not going to get you socks. Like, I really think that, a holiday gift should be something that you always have wanted and is going to make you so happy, but maybe you don't need it. It's a little frivolous, and I think Joy would be the best at that, so.
Awesome. Now we have to actually get these characters to do our shopping. So I want to take it back to something that we kind of started with, which is just this idea of the funnel. We use it a lot in marketing, but we don't often talk about what it actually means and what it means in the context of today's shopper. So, Jennifer, talk a little bit about what's one thing you've had to unlearn about what the funnel is and what we say when we mean funnel in this new world we live in.
God. So I'm old enough where we used to market in one place and sell in another, and now I need my phone. So now it's in one place, right? So internally, we refer to the funnel as the other F word, and we treat it about the same way in meetings, is don't say it. It's not safe for business. I think what we had to unlearn was that there was this idea where every consumer went through some sort of stages, when the truth is, the first time I saw Liquid Death, I was like, oh God, that's cool, I gotta have that. And so there was this compression between discovery and action that we feel like it's, and the reason we call it the other F word is if you're thinking in terms of a funnel and you believe that your job is awareness, kind of purchase interest, brand awareness kind of thing, that you can do a lot of dumb things and weak things and things that at the end of the day don't drive somebody to buy the product, which is, at the end of the day, the only thing that pays for our kids to go to college or to buy our car or whatever is somebody's got to buy something. So that's, for us, it's thinking about action rather than feeling.
I care about feelings.
Yeah. Say more.
I think it's true that it has changed, but I think the fundamentals of the funnel are still here. And going back to feelings, it starts with feelings. It starts with storyline. And it's very difficult to act off of a storyline. And you need to get that story and that feeling to repeat itself several times before you act. Now, where you act, definitely in the omnichannel world has changed a ton, and now you can act, from a feed, from on social, from a bunch of different places on e-com, because you find yourself on Walmart.com, and you were shopping for something else, and now you see that brand, and you can act on. But it is still an awareness play first. And once you're aware, now you can consider, and the different levers to consider are still here, and then you have to repeat the purchase. So yes, it has changed because there are so many ways to consider the product and act, but the fundamentals are still the same. And I think, and I've been very vocal about this, people think now because of the social world and Meta trying to tell you that you can make everything happen in one ad and you should create 3,000 ads and hope to find the right one. I think it's just flat out stupid. Like, you need to have this funnel to work well to get to consideration. And no, you won't get a conversion from just one single ad that will do the whole thing, telling you the story, getting you the RTBs, and then converting. Like, if that happens, that doesn't scale. Sorry.
No, I mean, we'll agree on some parts of it and disagree on others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to, what's everybody else's thoughts? Funnel, no funnel?
I mean, for us, I think you have to be strategic in all areas of the funnel. I think the old school approach used to be really top down, and you really worked your way down, and you'd have all these different levers. I think ultimately the way we view it is the customer really is the one in charge anymore. It used to really be the brand really driving, I think, that emotional connection. I think the customer is letting us know. For us at LYS, one of the biggest things, we were really trying to do was storytell, a lot of top of funnel, trying to, do a lot of things on the front end to get the customer's attention. And a lot of the things that we were doing there were not really the things that were causing that in purchase, which we want. So for example, our TikTok, we went viral. We all of a sudden woke up and there were thousands of orders, and we're like, holy smoke, what's going on? And so had nothing to do with the brand, the message. I mean, these people didn't even know about our brand. They saw one video with somebody using a product. They barely could even pronounce the name. They were calling the name incorrectly. So it was this conversation of the conversion happened, and now we have to backtrack and go back and do the awareness. So I feel like the thing that we unlearned is there's no one way or no one approach in terms of how to scale or grow a business. You really need to be doing tactics at all elements and all gears at all times. So you need to have awareness, you need to be playing there, you need to have, immediate conversion, you need to be doing influencer, you need to be doing, creative. But I would definitely agree with the comment about feeling. I will say ultimately what has united us in all of the areas of the funnel for our brand specifically is that emotional connection. I think beauty naturally is emotional and naturally comes with a feeling. And I think even if it's a simple feeling of, I want an eyeliner that stays all day, or I want a foundation that matches my skin, that is still an emotional feeling that they're trying to solve. And so for us, we have to make sure that we don't just let data drive. It's really how do we solve or create that emotional feeling or connection to what how we want the customer to react.
Yeah, I mean, Tisha's obviously speaking my language, talking about beauty being an emotional, need to have an emotional connection with the client. I mean, I think that
more so than compressing the funnel, I really think of it as a constant loop between like inspiration and action and all the places in between where the client is going. And we're trying to really meet them where they are, as you were saying. We're trying to really meet them where they are in that process. I mean, we just launched a few months ago the Sephora storefront, which is really a creator-powered affiliate market. And so now the creators are able to have a piece of content on their spot, take action, and then send people directly to a storefront, a curated storefront on Sephora.com. So that's really bringing together that creator influence, that emotional connection directly to the commerce piece, and then bring it onto Sephora.com gives us more ownership really in the sort of a beauty affiliate market and being able to really influence in that creator marketplace, which I think is really important. As we know, I mean, you were just saying the power of TikTok and the influence of that. You have to be able to get where people are getting their inspiration and bring them directly into the purchase path.
But I think what we're not talking about though is where the conversion point is. And yes, if you're talking about online, yes, that's easy to go all the way down to conversion very quickly, like what happened on TikTok Shop or the Sephora.com storefront, and there are great tools out there, like Jennifer and Smart Commerce can enable that. But remember, probably, at least on the CPG world, at least for us, over 70% of conversions happen in a store, a brick and mortar store. And you don't go from a TikTok viral video to picking up off the shelf at Walmart. That's not happening. Like, you need to make sure they remember you all the way to when they walk into the store and walk by the aisle. And that's, I think, a very different setup between D2C and wholesale, right?
Well, it's the short term versus the long term
Correct.
health of your brand.
And I think the long term, you have to think about full funnel, and you have to think about those different stages.
And there's different jobs to be done at every stage of the funnel, even though the consumer is constantly moving through that funnel, whether it's collapsed or not. It's incredibly important to be in those right places at the right moments. And then I think, you know, what we have the magic of today is the ability to reach more personalized audiences and be able to target more precisely, so that we're not just, it's not just like reach as many people as possible anymore. It's like about reaching the right consumers that are going to have the highest propensity to buy you. But it's also about kind of building that long-term brand love so that you can also command the price at shelf, and that you're building, you know, the hearts and minds of consumers over the long run.
Yeah, and I would kind of agree and disagree in the piece that you say around the CPG piece. I think for us, I still think that urge to try happens, whether it be online where you can make that instant purchase with a click versus going in store. And I'll speak personally to your brand. You know, I saw somebody carrying a can at a concert, and I was like, that looks pretty cool. And then we just had like a dialogue, and I'm not really drinking. I'm kind of in my dry era at the moment, but I want to look like I'm fitting in, and I want to feel cool. And so I went to the store and bought a case to give it a try from that one interaction, never having experienced the brand from the brand. And so we have that same connection too. We had one person use a product on TikTok and literally sold out at Sephora. I mean, still selling out on the same product consistently. So I would venture to say that funnel is so distinctively different that I don't have to be presented anything from the brand. If it feels a void or a connection in my world, I'm racing to the store if I can't get it instantly on the shop button right
And I want to go back because I used the wrong word at the end there, and I said feeling, and I really meant awareness. And what's awesome is that everyone's going, no, you have to have the feeling.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to have the feeling, because
Yeah.
the feeling drives the action.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awareness.
Correct. I agree with that 100%.
I'm aware
Nobody
that
knows.
that's sitting out there. That's meaningless.
Yeah.
But if you can make me feel,
Yeah.
and you give me a chance to act, holy mackerel, that's magic something.
But I think what we're saying here is, you know, you said funnel, you said flywheel and cycle here, right? I call it chutes and ladders, right? So at one point in time, we kind of truncated this funnel. You know, we had CTV and you could all of a sudden buy from it. Now we've got consumers that are kind of taking over, and they're like going right back up the funnel, and a simple review can actually like kind of change your awareness and your reputation and your perceptions, right? And so that's kind of like shooting right back up that ladder. So
I am stealing chutes and
I
ladders.
like
That
it.
is
That's really
so
good. So
perfect.
cute. So cute.
Consumers are basically kind of like
Yeah.
taking control of our own funnel at this
1000%.
point in time. And to your point about the liquid death, like they have become now your main source, your main power source of actually kind of creating this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the challenge I had, even when I bought your product, it was really to solve that problem that I wanted to look cool, but I didn't know anything about your brand. And then I go look at the brand and I'm like, oh, I like this even more. Same challenge we have with our brand. Like somebody saw a bronzer stick that changed their world, but they don't, I mean, we have spent hours, I've spent countless hours creating this brand and the identity and the story and the intentionality behind it. And the person using the product every single day they're not even saying the name right. They're saying LYS, and it's like, it's LYS, it stands for love yourself. It was created to change the narrative in beauty so that you don't have to worry about changing how you feel or this connotation where beauty makes you feel inferior, but it's really this choice of using beauty as a form of self-expression. Like there's intentionality in what we did to create a brand, but people are using our products every single day and have no clue about the brand, where traditionally they would start at the beginning and really understand your brand and the identity, and then you'd work their way down. So it's really a lot of onus on the brand to then have to go back and say, okay, how do we really make sure we create emotional connection so that it's not a one-time purchase? How do we keep them around a lot longer? And a lot of that is based on that
little
awareness.
unique with beauty. I mean, when you're talking about, I think a lot of people have an emotional connection with like Pop-Tarts or something. but
I have a big
maybe not
emotional
so.
connection. By the
I
way,
mean, I have kids, so I got a pretty strong
it's
emotional
called
connection with Pop-Tarts.
12 a.m. and I need a snack. Okay, that's
You
an
know,
emotional
you think
time.
about, you have gum brands and all these things that exist in the world, ketchup, and you're not going to have an emotional connection with all of them. So it's interesting how each brand has to find its way.
emotionally connected to my ketchup.
I would use water as a great example 6 years ago of a category that would be really hard to have an emotional connection, and you broke that.
Well, I think
So,
you're getting to an
that's
efficacy
genius.
story too, though. I mean, aside from the emotional connection, like where you're talking about with the bronzer stick and the fact that it went viral and all of that, is because someone saw that it worked, and that's an efficacy story now. Because I'm looking
Yeah.
for a bronzer that works on my skin tone,
Yeah.
that does what I want it to do. It's the same thing with I need a quick snack in the morning. I got 2 kids, give me a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Like I like this version of ketchup. Now you're into which version of the story is going to resonate with that client, and that's part of the funnel too. Like yes, you need that emotional connection, but people need a reason to buy the product. You want it to look cool at a concert, so you went and bought the funky water. That's an efficacy story that you're telling. So I really think it depends on, really figuring out what the client is looking for, what your audience needs, and getting there and being able to tell that story at the right part when they're looking for
Can I
that.
put one more thing in here? Okay, but I think what this all means is that every piece of asset that you throw into your funnel here now needs to play a role both brand and demand.
Yes.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
And so everything needs to work really hard within it. And I think that's a really big creative challenge within it, but there's definitely ways that you can make that.
Let's say more about that. What do you mean by demand, brand and demand in the same asset?
You need to make sure that you're building up your brand identity as well as driving conversions within that, right? So whether that's building up associations of what your brand stands for in lower funnel, while also kind of pushing the where can you find it, how do you buy it? Is there an offer associated with it?
I agree and disagree with that. I mean, yes, you need to try, but when you're up a funnel and let's say you are on TV and you have 30 seconds or 15 seconds to catch someone's attention and you're in the middle of a bunch of other ads, you need to have them remember one thing. And if you start telling a story, telling them the benefits of the product, telling them where to buy, telling them the price, there's no way they're going to remember all of that. Mm-hmm. So you need to focus on one thing. At least for myself and as a Liquid Death, when we're on the upper funnel, we're not really caring or mentioning where to buy or anything like that. It's all about the brand and remember the brand. And if we can, and we have a challenge because Kellanova has different brand name for different products. We have the same name for a lot of different products. We're multi-category. So it's even more challenging, but I need them to at least remember Liquid Death, and then I need them to hopefully remember what category we're in. Because remember, like, half of the people think we're maybe a beer, right? But maybe if they can remember it's Liquid Death and it's a healthy beverage, it's a win. Now, I cannot or I will lose that if I start selling them, oh, by the way, it's available at Walmart, and by the way, it's a 6-pack at $6.99. Like, I can't. Like, this is not happening.
There's other ways of going about it, though. That's where your media strategy and your creative strategy can kind of work together, right? So where are you running your ads?
Well, I'm talking, in that case, TV. But now, this is where it becomes interesting, and we're going back to the funnel.
Yeah.
That's my upper funnel. Now, the beauty of TV, now CTV, is be able to retarget that exposed audience, right? So I don't need them to take action. I need them to know that they've seen that ad 5 times. Great. Now they are ready to probably consider the product if they haven't already walked in the store and got excited about it and bought it. Now I can still get in front of them. Now with the messaging, well, it's a healthy beverage. It's less than 20 calories. It's all natural ingredients. Now I can say that, and maybe in a static format when they show up on social or when they show up on site at a retailer. Now, if they walk in the store, now this is not really me anymore, but that's the shopper team that has to make sure there is great signage, POS, tells them the story about the product and remind them that they saw Kelsey doing a story with us on TV, right? So to make it all work together, yes, you have those creatives that have to work at each stage. I disagree with the fact that a creative can do it all. Like, I don't think it can.
Okay, I think the ecosystem then as a whole together
Yes.
is most important for it to work together.
Correct.
I think what's interesting that you're all kind of alluding to is that, like, yes, awareness matters, intent matters, purchase matters, but they're not necessarily all happening in the neat funnel anymore. It's chutes and ladders, it's a flywheel, it's whatever you want to call it. So when you have all these different, such a fragmented ecosystem where consumers are interacting with your brand, and then you also have to kind of drive awareness and all those things at the same time, like how do you think about what levers to pull when? Like, how do you kind of think about what's the most important thing when you want someone to learn and take an action in the same moment?
I think it depends on your brand and where your brand is and its
Yeah.
life cycle. It's what are the jobs to be done? Where do you have the most fallout from that funnel? Because at the end of the day, our budgets aren't getting bigger. And so you have to make smart decisions on how you're going to spend your budget. And again, I think it starts with what is the problem we're trying to solve for? And then how do I build the best plan to drive those outcomes at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to lead into the chaos a little bit too, right? Like, you have to figure out, I mean, you were saying, I think Chutes and Ladders is the perfect example, metaphor for that, because it is a little chaotic, the funnel now. But you really have to go also with your budget, figuring out where you're going to make the biggest impact and the best impact, and being able to use those dollars in the spaces where if the point right now, like, we're in the holiday season, which is the Super Bowl for retailers, right? So we have to make sure that the partnerships that we are partnering with, we have to make sure that the people we're working with not only reflect our brand values, but also we're going to have a big impact in the marketplace to be able to cut through everything else that's happening for retailers in that moment. So sometimes you have to take big swings depending on what time of year it is and, where everybody is. Like, Super Bowl is literally your Super Bowl. Retail right now and holiday for us, it's like we're partnering with the Rockettes because they're clearly very iconic during the holiday season. We're partnering with Mariah Carey, who's the queen of Christmas right now, right? That's the reason why you take those big swings, because you want to make sure, if I'm trying to associate someone with Sephora during the holidays, who is the person that's going to be the most, going to resonate the most with the clientele and with our customers during holiday? Oh, that's Mariah Carey, clearly. Yeah.
I think on that, what is key to make it all work together, and maybe a bit technical, but it is tech. Like, it is, in my opinion, what I call identity resolution. Like, we need to be able to, there's no cookie, there's no such thing anymore to follow that person around. We need to be able to understand who has seen us at what stage of the funnel. So now we get in front of them with the right message to either go try the product, or to go back and repeat a purchase on the product. And because, at least on our side, on the CPG side, and it's maybe weird to say that from a liquid standpoint because we have such a big fan base, but people are not loyal in the CPG world. They may be loyal to a group of brands, to 5-6 brands, but then they bounce around. So you need to get back in front of them to get them back to buy a second time, to buy a third time. And all of that is enabled by tech. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but a lot of things are happening right now in the identity resolution world, in the ability to match data with the retailers. And it's going to take us in a great place from an advertising standpoint, from a full funnel standpoint. So, yeah.
I like what you said about, it depends, you have to understand the life cycle of the brand and where you are. I see too many what I would call giant enterprise brands trying to solve an action problem, not selling enough stuff, with an awareness play. And awareness doesn't necessarily lead to action, and so understanding which one you're working with, like you are on the awareness side for sure. You're moving to more of an action situation, although you have some, as we talked about earlier, some consumers who don't know about you, and you still need to do that. But understanding which you're doing and when you can get to what you're talking about, the brand and demand cycle that just keeps repeating, which is where most of your brands are right now.
Well, it's like, are you recruiting, reclaiming, retaining?
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
and there's a combination of those things, but the size of prize looks very different depending on the problem. And so how do you then decide where your budget's going to go and what are the business outcomes that
Well,
you're trying to solve for?
I'm certainly not aware of Pop-Tarts, but I haven't bought them in a couple of years.
And it might be a conversion or a
Until
consideration.
last year. No, well, last year you gave me a reason to buy it. There was an ad that showed me making Christmas cards out of Pop-Tarts with little kids. Okay, now I've bought them. So it's getting into my consideration set, not my awareness, but my actual action. Here's a thing to go do, which was brilliant, by the way.
Well, you're kind of alluding to like a really interesting thing, which is that there's a difference between personalization and relevance, right? So you can use tech and whatever and data to personalize and hit the right person at the right time, but how do you know you're going to get them with a message that's relevant to them in that context, in that moment, that's going to give them something that they've been looking for or needing and drive that purchase?
You have to be listening to them. Like, you always have to be listening to what your clients are telling you, because our customers are loud. Like, they tell us very clearly what they want, when they want it, how they want it, what they don't like, what we did that wasn't okay, what they love, what they want more, all day. We have 20 million Instagram followers. They tell us all the time. So I think that you really need to be listening. I mean, I think obviously, there's data that does that, but it's also like the personal listening in terms of how well do you know your client and what they're looking for. Like, that your clients are a lot of moms and people are making Christmas cards, and that could be a really good in to them in terms of making it relevant for them at that moment. Like, you always have to be paying attention to what's happening in their world and in their lives to know what's going to be relevant for them.
There's just like this overloading amount of data signals that are out there. And I think so much of this comes back to the insights that we're able to drive off of all of that data. And then how do you then turn those insights into action, whether it's product innovation and listening, or it's, new product assortment or different occasions that you're getting into. But I think that the data and the ability to also target in a much more personalized way allows us to kind of reduce some of that noise and that friction, and so that we as marketers have the better propensity to actually turn that consideration moment into a purchase and repeat purchase.
So, but what I love is we're kind of moving from in the store to out of the store to in the store, and the advertising is happening, let's call it beyond the store, even if it's on your phone, right? And when I'm in the store, we have the 4 Ps, we understand them, we know what we need to do, where somebody's considering at the shelf. When you reach somebody in the middle of the day, that person was not actively shopping. They were in the middle of doing something else and you showed them something. We've seen 2 things work in that place, solution and inspiration. Either you solve a problem for me, I am in the bar and I don't want to look like I'm not drinking, or inspiration, what you did with the thing. It's just so different. And so to add to you have to understand the life cycle of the brand. You also have to understand where's the head of the consumer in that moment. I was not in the middle of looking for a
holiday card with
card.
Pop-Tarts.
I was in the middle of scrolling through cab videos or something, and yet you stopped me. And so it's just making sure that, to your point, relevance is so situational.
The stop me is the thing.
You stopped me.
And instead of doubling down on the push, sometimes it's about the pull, and we've really focused a lot on just asking. People want to be heard now more than ever, and so we really do, we really bring our community in and we ask them, right? So rather than using sometimes a ton of data that we don't know is fully validated, that's speaking to our actual audience, we actually ask them directly. Tell us what you want, tell us what you're looking for, name this product, how should this look, how should this wear, what color do you want this to be, what color would you prefer, what finish do you like? I think a lot of times we're constantly trying to shove things down people's throat that they don't really want. And I see far too often, I scope and look and I love the comments, but don't love them if we get them. But I love seeing sometimes when people say, who asked for this? And I makes me think exactly, who wants that? So I think it's important that we sometimes, pull back a little bit on the push and double down on the pull.
I'll challenge that. Sorry, I keep challenging. But I think asking is good, but the people that answer may not be representative of what your audience base will want. We pay a lot of attention to that because we have this rule where we talk about the 99-1 on social, that 90% that actually interact with the content just watch the content. 9% may do a light interaction like a like or a share, and just 1% that will comment. And so being able to define, and same for surveys, we are going to answer those surveys, like that 1% is probably not representative of the people that are actually going to bring you scale for your brand. And we are very, very careful about how much we pay attention to the people that really say what they want, because I think if we do, we're probably going to make the wrong calls.
And I would agree with that in CPG. I would say in beauty, though, it's just a very different vertical, and it's just such a very emotional vertical. And I find, or in my experience in the last 20 years, I mean, there's a lot of commonality in the feedback, and I think, you know, we typically see people follow brands that really truly fit the void that they're looking for. I think a brand like Liquid Death, it's such a cool brand that it's really like a mass appeal, that you're gonna have such a wide array of people. But I find in beauty, right, like I'm probably not gonna be following a brand that doesn't sell my skin tone or really focus on colors that work for me or have performance. So and at least for us, we typically find that that value prop be very much on par with what they're looking for.
I also think it depends on your brand positioning too, right? You
Yeah.
guys are very well known as a sort of disruptor brand, right? So when you're talking to your audience, you have that mass appeal. Maybe you are getting people who are just trying to be disruptors themselves, you know, when they're answering whatever, you know, you're asking questions. I think beauty is really more, it is very emotional, but it is really about like building that community of people who want to engage with you, who really relate to your brand and look at your brand really that to represent them more. I mean, it is more about like you kind of define yourself. Some people really define themselves by the places they shop and the beauty they love and the brands where like, I know this brand makes all the colors that actually does fit my skin tone. I know that this place really carries all the brands that I'm looking for. Like that's becoming more of a defining sort of action, I think, and a defining sort of value for people, and they want brands that represent them, particularly in beauty. So I do think the vertical does feel a little different. Retail is a little crazier because we've got so many different brands. So we do also have brick and mortar, right? So we've got so many different brands that we have to make sure that we're supporting, and we have to make sure that we're bringing brands in that reflect our values and give our clients what they're looking for. But we also have to represent ourselves as Sephora, the brand, because beauty consumers are also not loyal at all. You know, they go everywhere. They're supposed to. There's so much out there. You know, why wouldn't you? So we have to be able to bring in those brands that represent them and give them reasons as a retailer and a brand ourselves to come in and shop with us or follow a creator that will then create a storefront and shop with us online. Like we do have so many different touch points where we have to reach them as Sephora, the brand, and also being able to support the brands that we sell, you know, in our stores.
I think you're alluding to something really interesting that we kind of talked about a little bit before, which is just that the relationship between brands and retailers is changing a lot in this context. We have the rise of e-commerce and retail media. There's a lot of different data that brands and retailers now have access to from each other. I'm curious how you all are navigating these shifts and kind of using this new access or this new way of working with retailers to approach this new funnel, chutes and ladders shopping situation that consumers are in.
Yeah. I think for us in CPG, it's going to look different than it is for Sephora when you are the retailer. So I think for CPG companies, this is really our access to all of that purchase behavioral data, which we don't have because we don't own the point of sale. And so I think for us, the conversation is definitely shifting with our retailers. More investment is shifting to retail media because we can get to the access to the data that we need to uncover the insights, but also the audience targeting to be more effective and efficient. But I do think that the other big thing that's really happening in this space is internally in a big CPG organization, it's the silo breaking and how do we actually show up to the point where we are putting the consumer at the heart of our brand growth, and that every team member that is responsible for delivering that full funnel, connected, frictionless, personalized experience, that we can do that in a way that maximizes the limited budgets that you have, the business outcomes that you're looking to drive. And I think that we've done a really great job of breaking down those silos, looking at our total budgets and our spend kind of more holistically than in these different trade versus promotions versus brand building, right? There's all these like budget pools that you can pull from. But it's about really, again, having the conversation, like how do we grow the categories for our customers, and then how do we grow our brands for our business, both in the short and the long term, and then how can we better use that data to drive mutuality and mutual business outcomes.
Yeah, I'm loving it right now, those relationships with the retailers. I never thought we will get where we are right now in terms of the ability to really build together. I never thought they would listen the way they are listening right now. I never thought that they will consider doing what they do with data in order for us to better target their shoppers. And I think we're just at the beginning, and I'm like, even the biggest out there, the Walmart, the Amazon of the world, are talking. They are bringing the product folks in the meeting. They are asking what we are looking for. Now, are they going to be able to move as fast as we want? I thought they wouldn't, but they actually are. Like, they are becoming agile with their product development. So I think, I don't know exactly what happened, and maybe I'm lucky, but there's something happening right now, and it's for the good.
What do you think is driving that? I'm just curious.
I think the consumer. I mean, I think we know the consumer personally. I think they have access to the consumer, but I think we are really responsible for helping drive that. And I think that mutual data that they've gatekept for so long, if we had access to it much faster, or we have the tools or the ability to be a lot more agile, and they see the connection, we can all scale much faster. And I think just throwing what at the wall and see what sticks for brands while you have the data sitting doesn't really benefit any of us.
I couldn't possibly agree with you anymore
Yeah.
about why it needs to be that way, but why are they changing?
I think
That's what I'm
I think that
wondering.
the customers, like the Walmarts, the Amazons of the world, et cetera, they're also breaking their own internal silos down, which I think is also
that's
driving.
what-
And you no longer have the buyer that's responsible for online and the one that's in store. It's like they're responsible for the category, and so I think that shift also is what we internally also have to start to shift towards, right? It's like you can't just have your omni team sitting over here and your sales team sitting over here. Like the left hand has to be talking to the right hand, because the consumer doesn't see a different journey, right? Because we are moving in-store, online, on our phones, connected TV.
And it's also
in
not
any
a
second.
cakewalk for these retailers anymore. It's not like everybody goes to these two retailers anymore and they own the world. There's so many other places that consumers are shopping, and as they start to see market share slip, how do we really combat those things where, listen, if I have a new retailer like a TikTok shop who's come in and is eating lunch and giving data and helping brands scale, now I better let people into the data that they need so that they can also function and scale and bring these same tools. So I think it's just having to shift with what's happening in the ecosystem and the way the consumer, again, going back to consumer, really controlling the narrative at the end of the day.
And I think retailers and brands have to push on our differentiators, right? Like you were saying, there's so many different places where people can buy beauty, and so many different places people can buy anything. So as a retailer, I think it's also your responsibility to make sure that you know that your customer has a choice, and you're making sure to really push those differentiators. Like I said, we have obviously a very robust online business, but we also have the benefit of having, thousands of stores. And I think that is important. So when you're talking about beauty, which is a category where you want to be able to touch and feel and try and get your questions answered and really get that personal expertise and that inspiration, it's a benefit to us to have brick and mortar and to be able to push that differentiator, that you can come into store and you can get the help, which some of our competitors who just do e-commerce or just, are just pushing on convenience and pushing on speed don't necessarily have. And we have the benefit of getting someone in.
And omni is so important. And you mentioned that with store, and then having 70% being in store versus having the online piece. I think not having the in-store piece can be challenging for brands that only have the digital. I think it makes it so much more meaningful for a consumer to be able to have that full funnel, for us to really be a brand that is focused on skin tone matching products, to the value of being able to see something digitally and go into a Sephora on any corner and touch and feel and play is leaps and bounds going to give you more of a headway and an opportunity to connect with that consumer than a brand that doesn't have that. It's so critical, I think.
I think there's another piece to that. I agree with all of that, but also retailers are becoming media companies. And like massive media
She's like, I
companies.
know. Oh my gosh.
I mean, the
100%
margins
agree
are
with that.
so,
Like-
the margins are so
100%
thin, so like you have to kind of think about other revenue sources.
Oh yeah, and by the way, it's amazing.
It's brilliant.
I mean-
I'm like, thank you, Sephora.
I mean, half my job is
Thank
pushing
you.
out content. I've got my whole team. I've got content producers. I've got project managers. We've got an entire creative in the studio. We have a studio in Los Angeles where we're shooting content. I mean,
It's
so
brilliant.
much
So-
of my job now is shooting
So,
content.
so from a content perspective, yes, but also from an inventory perspective. I mean, look at what Amazon does with Prime. Like this is massive, right? And this is like top content. It's live sports. And look at what Walmart is doing by buying Vizio. Now they own the operating system. And I don't know if you know, but Walmart sells 60% of the TV in the United States. Now they are going to own the operating system. Guess what's going to happen, right? And now, I'm sure you experience that on TV. When you own the operating system, you can start squeezing the content and put ads around the content.
Yes.
Like, think about what Walmart is going to do with this. This is just going to be really fucking amazing.
like
I mean,
You're
Amazon's already doing it.
Yeah, and your Sephora storefront. I mean, it's genius beyond genius, the fact that millions and millions of people share that they're buying things from Sephora every single day, or that I use this from Sephora, and now that I can have someone purchase directly from my link that I'm promoting for Sephora immediately is just a game changer.
Yeah, and their
Benefits
.com is a
everybody.
media property as well. I mean, there's so much inventory. Like sometimes I'm blown away that some retailers still don't have an on-site offering or a proper on-site offering, and then they should bring their data on site so we can retarget those people. Like, I mean, there's so many things that it could do. Some are doing, but their .com becomes a media property.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So we're coming to the end of our chat, and I know we can't possibly have a panel here without talking about AI. So I'm curious how you all think AI is going to further accelerate this change that we're seeing in terms of how consumers shop, how you need to reach them in different ways, the relationships between brands and retailers in the next 6 to 12 months. Like, what do you see as the biggest change to all
I
that?
thought that's what you were going to say was part of what's behind this, because AI is unlocking kind of some of the retailer strangleholds on the transaction. You know, we have now Walmart partnering to
With
basically
OpenAI
distribute the
and-
transaction. Right, so you're going to get transaction data, you're going to get transaction data, you're going to share transaction data through AI. That has to
Oh, it will.
hugely
Oh, it won't be massive.
change right, so
From-
the retailer has to be your friend
I think
now.
when people are talking about AI, about like how it's going to steal jobs and all of that, I think from where we stand, it's how it's going to bring sales. Like this is massive from an agent perspective, right? From all of them, and you see the announcement obviously with Walmart and OpenAI and Stripe and OpenAI. So it is and even you see right now, I mean, talking to the retailer, the surge of traffic they are getting from those agents is massive. So we are now going to have to, what used to be search on site, now we're going to have to deal with it at the agent level, and now understanding what the agent is looking at, and how can we shortcut that question that has the agent straight into, in our case here, to the retailer for our product and not another product. So are the reviews are even more important on that? Or is the PDP even more important? Like, who knows what is
Where
going
does
to
the
drive that?
storytelling come into play
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well,
How does
right?
that?
I mean,
Yeah.
Like,
Where does it
and
live?
so it's like it's moving so fast. Nobody knows really what's happening, or they do. But tomorrow is going to be different, and we have to really watch and act accordingly. But again, it's a layer that we don't really have control over.
Yeah.
And the retailer doesn't really have control over either, except if you have the Walmart that says OpenAI is going to do it for me, but then you have Amazon that says we're keeping it in. Right, so it's going to be very interesting from a brand
I
standpoint.
think the commerce aspect of this is coming. I don't think we're quite there yet.
No.
But I do think that AI right now, there are some very specific use cases that are going to be that are already very disruptive in marketing. And it's allowing us to be more effective and more efficient. Content production is absolutely one of those areas. I also think that, from an audience and journey orchestration perspective, specifically in allowing us to uncover the consumer insights, being able to turn those into audiences that we can actually target. I mean, we were just talking about clean rooms and the ability to just really understand, it's not just demographics anymore, but it's like, how do we start to layer on the purchase-based behavioral signals, the other, things that make you a consumer, and then how do I then drive that relevancy and that personalization and reduce the waste that I have in, category rejectors or people that maybe you're just switching too often. So I think that it will unlock a lot of things for us to really continue to drive marketing as a growth driver for the organization.
Yeah, I would say beauty, we still have quite a ways to go. I mean, we definitely, AI, I think is going to really drive commerce and what everyone else is saying, but I do think for beauty, it's so specific because beauty is such a personal category. And I think that the AI, especially even the ones that we're sort of launching on our site and the ones we're using to help people answer questions and get that help, it's really going to only be as good as how you can train it, specifically for beauty, because the questions are very personal and it's very problem solution and it's seasonal. It's what color is my skin in winter versus in summer? Like it's things that still need that sort of personal touch of someone who has lived it and understands it. So while I do think it's going to catapult all of us in the very near future, I think that it is important for us, especially as a beauty retailer, to make sure that it's still in the service of what our clients are actually looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting.
Last thought.
It's exciting and it's scary at the same time. And I'm not on the media side, so thank God for that at this point in time. It's a little bit of a black box for me. But the one thing that I keep resting my morals on here is the fact that creativity is the one thing that's going to be immensely important at this moment in time. Everyone is going to have access to so much data, and it's going to be more accessible and more easy to actually manipulate than ever, and everyone's going to be able to use it at some point in time. And so creativity is going to be the key thing that everyone's going to have to use in order to move forward and to build that differentiation and that distinction that we started this conversation about. And so that's one thing that I'm really excited about moving forward, just to see who's going to be able to break through at this point in time.
I love ending on that note. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.